Good morning again, and welcome to the fourth hour. It is really great to have you along. Steve says he's watching the a big fire in California. Yeah, isn't that something? Those when those planes come in and drop all that. It's just absolutely incredible to watch that. So hoping that all is well there. I'm not seeing that story this morning. So thank you. I've got a few I wanted to share with you. First of all, I want to wish a I should have done this yesterday because Joe Bowman is one of the part of the news team at Kello.com. And Joe asked me yesterday, he says, my mom watches you and the fourth hour every day. Buffy, today is her birthday. Would you please wish her a happy birthday? And Buffy had every intention of doing that. Came downstairs, and then I have this huge stack of stuff. I mean, seriously, I got all of this stuff. And I got this note from Joe, and I put it, unfortunately, the note on the bottom. And I forgot to wish Buffy a happy birthday. Buffy, I hope you had a great birthday. I want to thank you for watching each day and being a fan. Very, very much appreciated. So we put Buffy up. Want to wish her a very happy belated birthday. So let's move on and see what I've got to share with you today. Steve also is saying, happy birthday, Buffy. Yeah, thanks. All right, let's see what's going on. There's not a lot of stuff beyond what we talked about on the show this morning. This is really crazy. I talked about this briefly on the air. Piers Morgan and Taylor Lorenz. Okay, Taylor Lorenz is a former, reporter from the Washington Post, and now she's got some other deal going on, which her contract's going to be allowed to expire actually because of these comments that are being reported. They were talking about the killing of Brian Thompson, who is the CEO of United Healthcare. And she has got some really kind of funky feelings about this. It's a bit, I find myself at a loss because this is like crazy with a capital C.
Why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be on the caring, sharing left where, you believe in the sanctity of life?
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Seriously?
I mean...
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy.
So certainly not empathy.
I think
but I'm gonna kill that there because I don't want the audio to keep sharing. But you heard her say joy over a man's execution. This is why. I mean, it's a big part of why I do what I do. Because these folks are just out of their minds. And then she goes on. And Piers Morgan saying, why would you be in such a celebratory mood about the execution of another human being? Aren't you supposed to be, and went on. She says, well, maybe not joy, but certainly, she said, not empathy. And so he said, how can this make you joyful? This guy is a husband. He's a father. He's been gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful? And this just goes on. So she gets more and more worked up. She's talking about the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push a policy of denying care to the most vulnerable people. Seriously? How does Taylor Lorenz know that he has not actually been out there and trying to reduce costs, trying to unravel the red tape, trying to make things more accessible and easier? I mean, just absolutely incredible how these people respond. So Morgan then asked her, should all healthcare executives be killed? Because would that make her even more joyful? And then she laughs and then says, no. So Morgan says, well, why not? Why are you laughing? You seem to find the whole thing hilarious. A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all. And then she goes on, it's all about going back to healthcare. And we talked about this a little bit on the air this morning, and I had someone who called in and on this and kind of along these lines. And it's like, wait a minute, this is not a trial of the healthcare industry. This will be a trial of a guy who murdered this man, who gunned him down. You see the video. Who in the hell celebrates that? That's what I just find so incredibly shocking, is who celebrates that? I certainly don't. I mean, and ideology has nothing to do with it. I don't know where this guy is. Politically, I don't know what he's responsible for. Nobody deserves to be gunned down like that. It's just as simple as that. And for those who are, again, and we talked about this on the air this morning, but I'm a little bit taken aback by this. And Steve, I thought you nailed it with your phone call this morning as we were talking about this. Yeah. Yet again, the left celebrating mental illness. It kind of seems that way. That's what's so absolutely incredible about it. Hey, David, I appreciate your comment. He's talking about, when we talk about, he said the caring left celebrates when, the most innocent, absolutely. This is a crazy world that we live in. And I watched all of this. And then you've got folks who see this guy. What would you do? I mean, seriously, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of other people all the time when I look at things. Okay, if I were in their position, what would I do? So if I were an employee at McDonald's or I were a customer at McDonald's and I saw this guy, even I would have recognized him. And because his picture was everywhere. How do you think you can get away with something like that in this day and age? And you haven't changed you're wearing the same coat. You got the, same stuff on, and he's got all of that in his possession. That is like crazy time. Why would you do that? Because apparently he was on the run, right? He takes off. He flees. He leaves the scene. Why wouldn't you take steps to look completely different so that folks might not recognize you? Why wouldn't you, do all of those things to change your appearance or get rid of the clothes that you were wearing, get rid of all of this stuff? The guy is carrying he's got a, forgive me now, the word has just escaped my mind, but the manifesto. He had like a 2.5 page manifesto that he was carrying on him, and which was just laughable. That he said, well, sending is, I respect that this is going to be difficult for, friends and family, but it had to be done. These people are Looney Tunes. Absolute Looney Tunes. And it'll be interesting to see what we learn about him as time progresses and goes on, because it's just absolutely crazy. Steve says he did some digging last night. He was a supporter of any cause championed by leftists. Certainly, this is the kind of strategy we see being used by leftists. He thought he was smart. Yep. And that's exactly, and I talked about that on the air this morning. Fox News had a story, foxnews.com, and they brought in a former FBI agent who worked with these kinds of issues. And saying, No, this guy clearly thought that he was smarter than everybody else. Yeah, pretty. Did he really think he was so smart he wasn't going to get caught? He was so smart that he's carrying all of these fake IDs still on him. Wouldn't you get rid of all that stuff? He's got this. He apparently had printed a 3D printed a gun, with those 3D printers. So he had printed a gun, so on. Still on him, all of this stuff. He was so smart. Give me a break. I mean, I sit and look at that. That is just like the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Absolutely incredible. I agree with you. I want to make sure I share. Yeah, David's comment here. College degree does not mean you are smart. Yeah, absolutely. And Edgy, you're on it. He says his big college education made him believe he was smarter than law enforcement, but he's just a complete amateur. And certainly after the shooting, he was. And which is rather incredible that he gave a lot of thought to how he was going to do it, was very well prepared, obviously, to carry it out successfully, which he did. But he hadn't thought beyond that. He hadn't thought beyond the moment. And I think, this is, you see these people, they live entirely in the moment, and then they don't think, okay, how am I going to get out of this? Where do I go from here? Clearly he hadn't thought about that at all. And apparently was surprised when he was approached at the McDonald's. Now, again, you're wearing the same jacket. This is just absolute. You're carrying all of this stuff. That just kind of shocks me. I was really quite taken aback by that. And here's Taylor Lorenz thinks the whole thing is funny. These folks who believe that he deserved it. I believe there is a judgment, and these are my personal beliefs. I believe there is a judgment that you and I are all going to face. Every one of us faces a judgment. But it doesn't come at the hands of man unless we violated a crime like this, committed a crime. But most of us are law-abiding folks, right? We're not out committing crimes. But we will answer for our lives afterward. We will answer for the things that we've done. I believe that for a long time. And I keep my thoughts on that very much. This is just, clearly a dose of, religion for this guy would have been grossly needed. And this is, unfortunately, it's what we see so often from the left. And we see this, I think, from people who live in the world versus thinking beyond the world. And that's what's really frustrating. I think that's why we see this craziness, even in our own community. I talked about that in the final hour. I talk too fast. I get excited, I think, when I'm doing this. In the final hour of the program today, I was talking about Sioux Falls Police, and they were talking about, this was the chief of police talking about mentoring people in our community and mentoring. And we need more of that. We need more folks that are out there and sharing these values, I think, with those who are younger. And this guy was, and I'm talking about the shooter of the United Healthcare CEO. This was somebody who was definitely in need of a lot of mentoring, because he was just absolutely off the wall crazy. So I think it's quite crazy. Yeah, and I wonder about this. Steve said he does have a religion. It's leftist cult religion. It's what he accepts. Yeah, it's crazy. And now you've got, folks saying the I'm not sure Steve's making a point here. I'm not sure. Maybe you can help me with this. Why do friends and family say anything? Why did it have to be a McDonald's worker? Which is a great point. Somebody in there recognized him. But again, friends and family, would they have recognized him just from the photo? And I don't know. I'm not in a position to judge whether friends or family recognized him and didn't say anything, whether it had to be somebody at this McDonald's. And then again, I talked about this on the air. You got all of these folks who were online and reacting to McDonald's and pushing back and commenting again on social media. Obviously, I use social media and I appreciate social media. I think social media has great value. I think if you use it in that way, and when I use social media, I want it to be for things that are meaningful and productive and not for destructive kinds of things that, and unfortunately, all too often, that's what we see. So we see people then who are upset and they're leaving on, they're on, I think it was Google reviews. They were leaving negative Google reviews of the McDonald's in the area because they called police. Now, that would be the reaction of any sane, balanced person. You would call the police. If you saw that guy, because all of us saw his photos. I mean, have been dealing in the story the last few days, so I've seen quite a number of his photos. And then I thought the one where he actually had pulled down his mask and he was flirting with the woman, and I forget where he was at the time, but he, big smile on his face. And I thought somebody's going to recognize him. There's just no question of it. But the idea that somehow this is the fault of the McDonald's for giving this guy up, there's a nationwide manhunt underway for this guy, and they're, upset with McDonald's. Now that tells you something about social media and the kind of people that are on social media. And it's really... David, you're right. The old saying, you can outrun a cop, but you can't outrun a radio. And I think in this day and age, it's even harder. I mean, think about it. That photo was... Tell me that you didn't have your phone and see this. Now you got how many millions and millions of people with their mobile devices who are gathering news and seeing that story and seeing that guy's face. And what? You think nobody's going to say anything? I mean, that is just absolutely incredible. And then but the left thinks, no, you shouldn't say anything. And that just runs counter to everything that I'm about. I mean, it's, of course you say something. This man was, shot down in cold blood. This isn't about insurance. This is about murder. Let's be able to distinguish what it is we're talking about here. This is somebody who took it upon himself to kill somebody else and say, this person is not worthy of life, or this person's sins are so great that they cannot be allowed to live any longer. Who in their right mind takes that kind of decision on themselves? None. Folks on Main Street don't. We don't look at the world that way. We understand there's going to be a final justice in life, in the afterlife, generally, and so we expect to answer for those things that we've done. Whereas you got folks like this guy who thinks, he's immune to all of this. What a shock I think some of these people are on the left are going to get when they find themselves in the afterlife and the final judgment. And it's like, hey, no, nobody told me about this. Yeah, we did. Yes, you were told. You were told. Just absolutely crazy to watch this stuff unfold. So the Taylor Lorenz, she's laughing about it on Piers Morgan, finding it funny. Now, seriously, who finds anything funny about any of this? This man killed. Somehow healthcare executives deserve this. I mean, if I want to leave a final thought with you, it's that nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves this. Regardless of what they do. I mean, except in extreme cases, those who are out there committing murder and, but for carrying out their job at a health, being a CEO of a healthcare company, you deserve to be gunned down in the street like that. It's just absolutely incredible. And there are just a host of people who believe that's the case. And that's where, I had a caller this morning, and God bless him. And I mean that sincerely, because, he's hoping that all of this stuff comes up at the guy's trial about the healthcare industry. And I'm like, wait a minute. This guy's trial should be about whether or not he's guilty or innocent of the crime. That's what it should be about. Healthcare is not on trial here. The guy who killed this healthcare executive is on trial. Healthcare is not on trial. Let's understand the difference. See, this is what happens when you get too emotional. And I was talking about this near the end of the show this morning. There are days when stories are impacting me emotionally, and I recognize that, and it's like maybe I'm angry or maybe I'm quite sad. Generally, if I move to tears, I will go ahead and share it anyway. But the stories are impacting me emotionally. If it's too emotional to be able to discuss in a rational way, then I don't. Then I will just share maybe the highlights of that story, but I won't get into it in detail, and I'll move on, because I know I'm right in the midst of, having a really kind of angry reaction to something. And it's, on the left, you have that angry reaction. You just go out and shoot somebody. You just kill the CEO of the healthcare company. I mean, these things just defy any kind of logic. And you see that, unfortunately, all too often coming from folks on the left. And it's really kind of, it's really disturbing to me to see what this guy did and the care that he took in gunning down this guy. And then apparently afterward, didn't even have a thought about it. Still carrying his fake IDs on him. Never thought, hey, I want to get rid of this stuff. I don't want to be connected to all of this. Get rid of it in such a way that it's not going to be found. Get rid of that jacket, get rid of the mask, get rid of all of those things. Anything that might, no, none of that. Never had a thought about it. And because I think he was just living in the moment. He was living for that moment of gunning this guy down. And that is just absolutely, that kind of thinking, I can't even explain it. I mean, I can't get to a point where I can get my arms around it and say, okay, I understand this. No, not in any way. I don't accept it. I value law and order in our society. I think it's important. I value law and order in my own life. There's a certain set of commandments that I carry very much by my heart. And I try to live by those. I fail, but I try to live by those. And I take that very, very seriously. That means something to me personally. This guy, apparently, what meant anything to him was the murder of that CEO, living in that moment. And the rest of his life is now, worthless. You're going to wind up being in prison. Who is going to be, unfortunately, there will be others, but who want to model this guy's behavior? That's what I fear. Now, are we going to have other folks that are going to start modeling this kind of behavior? So disturbed. That's, I think, what concerns me probably most. But Denise, you're absolutely right. You've got to have core values. And you've got to hold those, and you got to, more than just having them, you have to live by those. You have to conduct yourself every moment by those values. Not only for yourself, but I think for the benefit of others. And this stuff is just mind-blowing to me. I can't imagine the world, the self-obsessed world that guy must have lived in. And I'm going to leave it there for today. I want to thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate having all of you along for the 4th hour. If you would, hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button before you leave. I would appreciate it. And, I made a plea on the air yesterday. I said, I'm one person away, for those of you watching on YouTube. I said, I'm one person away from having 300 subscribers. And so I looked this morning, I had 5 more subscribers. So I was at 304 this morning. So now we're shooting for 325. No. Let's be ambitious. Let's shoot for 350 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. I would very much appreciate it. And if you're not, for those of you on Facebook, you're already following me here. So very much appreciated. It's great to have you along. And we'll leave it there for today. Thanks so much, my friends. Take care. So long. See you again tomorrow.